What's it? Okay. I'll try to keep it very short because I understand that the topic of how to adapt Frescobaldi to the Mac may be of interest only to some people and not to everyone in this room. And also because I want to say some words also on another topic which was anticipated this morning. So, how is software packaged for Mac? There are there are some kinds of ways, some ways of packaging software for Mac. One is, which is the one perceived by users as the most native, is application bundles. They are directories with some specific internal structure, and they contain all the dependencies of the application except for the libraries provided by the operating system. And as such, they can be very large, because, for example, in Frescobaldi, the source of Frescobaldi is about 30 megabytes, but the application bundle is about 270 megabytes, because there is Qt included, and there are also other libraries included, and this leads to code duplication across application bundles, because if I have two application bundles using Qt, I have two copies of Qt, one per each application bundle. This is the main disadvantage. The advantage is that they should work out of the box, and there is no need to manage the dependencies. And they actually can be placed anywhere on the disk, on the file system, and there is a convention to place them in applications in the root of the file system, but it's just a convention. They can be placed anywhere. If, on the other hand, we need to put some files in specific locations, we can use installer packages, which are very similar to Windows installers, and they are using, as I said, to place files in some specific locations on the disk, or to run some scripts before, during, or after the files are copied. For example, if I have an application bundle, but I also need to put some other files in specific places, or to run some script that adjusts something, then I need to use an installer package, but it's not the case of Frescobaldi. Then, of course, one can run an application from source, but that's not maybe what a typical user of Frescobaldi would expect. And then there are package managers, which are a very familiar concept. A very familiar concept for Linux users, but there is no default Mac package manager. There are three main third-party package managers. The one having more success nowadays is Homebrew, but they are widespread among developers, and they are becoming more and more popular even among non-developer users. But many users, even developers, if there is an application bundle or an installer package available, they prefer to use the application bundle or the installer package. And this is something that, for me, coming from many years of Windows plus some years of Linux and then many years of Mac, this is something I don't understand because of my Linux period. I prefer to have a package manager so I can just type update and it updates everything, but that's me. So I will skip most of this, which is not interesting maybe, but I'll just say that I started using Frescobaldi on the Mac, I think few days after this date, because on that date Philippe Massard posted on the LilyPond user mailing list the instructions to get all the dependencies and to compile Python Popper Qt4 and to run and to set up all the variables required. And then in August of that year, so a few months later, I started to try to package Frescobaldi for Mac ports, which is one of the 3 third-party package managers, and then eventually we arrived to the first officially released application bundle 1.5 years later. Then Frescobaldi 2 was based on Python 2 and Qt4, then eventually it switched to Python 3. But then the switch to Qt5 happened, and you will see that there are many gaps in this timeline between an event and the following event. And the reason for the gaps is lack of time on my part, because life, but also many problems in packaging, installing, but even in running Python, Poplar, Qt5 and Frescobaldi. And there were many bugs in Qt5, even though when we started, when the switch was made, Qt5 was already version 5.8 or 5.9, but there were many bugs that made the application, let's say, unusable on Mac, and that were later solved. Some of them were later solved on the Qt side. Now we have again an application bundle available. Frescobaldi can be run via Mac ports, can be run from source, but there are still some Mac-specific bugs, and some of them are specific to the application bundle. This is not. This is an important detail, because debugging application bundles is very difficult, I'd say, if you are not trained to do it, and if you are not developing using Apple development software like Xcode or the native development suite. So this is maybe not interesting, yeah. Okay, let's skip it. Just details on how the application bundle is created. But just maybe only one important detail. As I said, the application bundle must contain all dependencies. So it must contain Python, a Python interpreter. It must contain the Qt components needed. It must contain every other library except for the system ones. And this is done by actually copying the different libraries and binary files and adapting the links between the libraries with the path relative to the application bundle. And this is done by both by a Python program and the Qt program, and they do mostly an acceptable job, not a good job. The problem in packaging Frescobaldi for an application for Mac is that the main problem is that command line and the graphical user interface have different environment variables, and in particular the value of path is different. And I don't know the most recent versions of Mac, but when I started this endeavor, the path for the graphical user interface was empty. So that means that you need to call different the various tools with the absolute path, and you need to know where they are. And it means that system language detection cannot work via the environment variables, but it must call specific functions of the operating system. And then there was a choice to be made. We need to support in Frescobaldi the Python tools that come with the LilyPond, Convertly, MIDI2Ly, and we have several Python versions available the ones provided by the operating system. If you have a package manager, you can install the Python via the package manager, and if you install Frescobaldi via the package manager, it gets installed. There is a Python interpreter bundled with Frescobaldi or the one bundled with LilyPond, and each of them had some problems in running the various Python scripts. Because MIDI2Li, still in 2.18, because that was something that was changed in 2.19 something, 1935 I think. In 2.18, MIDI2Li depends on a binary library compiled with 32-bit architecture. And compiled with Python 2.4, and that means, for example, that on the latest version of Mac OS, you cannot run MIDI2Li from 2.18. There is no way around that. You can run MIDI2Li from 2.19, 30 something. And the Python bundle with LilyPond misses some modules that are required by the Python tools of LilyPond. The Python bundle with Frescobaldi, I don't know why, cannot be used on its own, and the Python provided by the operating system is, again, there are some missing modules, and so there was no nice solution. The solution was to use the earliest available operating system provided Python in 32-bit mode, but then, okay. But then it stopped working with the latest, with the Frescobaldi 3 and the latest system updates. Okay, then I had I had some lists of problems of Frescobaldi on the Mac, and I'm not going to mention them all, but there are many problems. These are the new bugs introduced with the switch to Qt5. And I know I have some ideas of how to solve half of them, but for example, this one, some windows of Frescobaldi cannot be resized. And I don't know why, because the code, the Qt code, the calls from Frescobaldi to the Qt functions are correct, are the ones that you would expect, but they are not resizable. And then there are some long-standing bugs. I want to mention that printing on Mac was very problematic, but with the new, with the introduction of the Author backend, now it works properly. I have still to fix the error, the message you get, but
take away the message.
We can, but we must take away, or at least we must enable Author by default, and disable the printing directly to caps.
Okay.
Because printing to caps is still, but printing via Author is very good. And there are some other problems. I just want to highlight this one I already mentioned. I face again the problem of choosing solving how to run Python scripts from within Frescobaldi, and then other minor problems.
The hyphenation is due to word processors. I used hyphenation dictionaries of word processors. Mm-hmm. They don't want a single letter be separated. So like Gloria, Maria, Amen. When I can enable the last break on the last character, but it yields very often erroneous results. So it's actually a word processor thing.
Okay.
The hyphenation library does its thing, we should have a list of words which we know.
And I had a look at the missing German dictionary, and indeed there are dictionaries in one of the folder of the directories of Frescobaldi, and those are the ones used on Windows and Mac, and there the German is missing. Okay, I said that debugging Qt applications is very difficult. I'd say it's difficult because many times when I faced a problem that was related to expected behavior for Mac behavior that Mac users expected, it often was due to some Qt penalty or to some way of doing Qt things on Linux that didn't work well on Mac. And the easiest way was to reduce the application, the whole Frescobaldi application to a minimal example demonstrating the problem. I did it for one of the bugs, and I did it for 3 or 4, but I found the solution to most in the process. But I did it for one, I did it completely, arriving at an application of 20 lines of code, which still has the bug, and I believe it's a bug in Qt. And it took me a whole day, I think. I didn't have much to do that day. And with Python, to debug, to know what happens, you maybe insert some print statement somewhere, and they often get lost when you package the application bundle. And that's why I said that the fact that some bugs are specific to the application bundle is an additional difficulty. So we have some problems, but the good news is that we have many Mac users that are interested and willing to help, at least with testing. And we have some ideas of how to solve some of these bugs. And for the packaging problems, there are some alternatives that we can explore. So, how much have I been talking?
You have been talking probably around 60, 70 minutes.
Okay, so I know this was probably not of interest for many people, but it can be of interest for the problem of packaging applications for the Mac, and we have currently the problem of packaging LilyPond for the Mac, because there are some efforts trying to do it not through GUB, and they are partly successful, but...
Are we taking questions? Yeah. First of all, thank you. I looked at the timeline there, and I realized now my earlier point about when I joined Frescobaldi was absolutely when the first app package was available.
Christmas 2014.
Yeah. And although I have Mac ports on my machine, and I'm comfortable doing installing Maxima and whatever I need, I am one of those that you can't explain. I prefer just grabbing the bundle and dropping it on, and I don't have time to work out dependencies and look at the thing. So thank you for doing all that.
A little thing, I think, maybe. I developed Frescobaldi just on the command line. So I have the Python stuff it's sitting in a folder, and I'm in the main folder, and I just type /Frescobaldi and boom. And there are ways to debug when you enter on the command line from Frescobaldi app.debug import asterisk. You get the app running, and you get a console. You can import modules and instantiate.
But I cannot do that when I need to debug the build application bundle. I cannot do that.
Yeah, no, of course. But can you deploy it on the command line unpackaged? That would be the way to debug the problems, like the Windows who don't want to be resized, and that kind of problems probably then can be more easily solved in less time. Not things caused by packaging, of course. I would be willing to help with Mac, but I don't have a Mac device. That would be nice.
Are you soliciting for donations? Because I also don't have a Mac device, but it's a choice. I can afford one. I just don't want to have one.
Yeah, I can't afford. But I would like to have an old one. But also I know, and when I'm saying this, I'm obliging myself to actually run Frescobaldi on it and try it, because I think the half of the problems I could solve, like the pinch stuff, because I can't use it on my device. The pinch stuff.
Just a comment on this. I don't think having an old Mac would help. Because, for example, this is from 2011, and this is actually my wife's computer, and my Mac is from 2008. 2008. Here I cannot go past the second to latest operating system version. And most of the problems, no, not most, and some of the problems we have are with users who cannot run the application bundle on a version different from this. Users that cannot run MIDI covertly on Catalina because it doesn't have a 32-bit Python. And they keep changing things every year.
Maybe we should organize a hackathon, and I can sit 2 days behind the Mac because and solve some problems. Because I don't have the time to do the packaging work, so I really concentrate on the code. So that
I have a potential. I have an offer. I have a client who has some co-located devices, and he has often offered to me to dedicate one of his old. Some of them are fairly new Mac servers, new Mac Minis, and so on, which are attached to his rack there. Would it be possible for you to do what you need in a co-located device by
I think yes. If
like
I
Apple remote desktop or something like
if
that?
I can run stuff and view it on my screen,
Like a VNC or something? Yeah,
that's enough.
I can make that.
From Linux,
With some kind of remote desktop program.
Yeah, it would be great.
Let's discuss
Because,
that. That can
I
also
don't have to maintain a device, and I still can try to find bugs.
that would also be, I can't
It would be nice.
100% guarantee, but he is honest. It would also be available if for Mac builds, if it works as a system, then I know there are some issues around building the Mac version of, I understand that there are some issues about the LilyPond build, so if that's also a solution, potential solution to that problem, then let's talk with whoever.
One problem I potentially see with that approach is that for graphical user interface work, the latency from the Netherlands to Canada could be,
It could be, yeah. He has a very high output, so it would depend on the connections from there, but he has good bandwidth out of the co-location.
yeah, but I mean, there's a physical distance that cannot be overcome more than the speed of light.
Totally.
Yeah.
So let's try it.
So, what is the version, the oldest Mac that you could realistically use for this?
Theoretically, Lion, which is 10.7, but this only if you accept to have an old version of Qt, which has bugs that were solved later. If you want to use the latest Qt, you need to be on the latest 2 or 3 versions of Mac, which would mean 10.13, 10.14, 10.15. Maybe also 10.12. And the reason is that the Qt people only support the latest 2 or 3 versions of the Mac operating system.
So how many years? Like if I see
2 or 3.
2 years, so there's a release every year. And
You're
so-
talking about
The
the
Mac is released almost every year.
You're talking about the OS, and you're talking about hardware.
Okay, no, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I'm considering to take a little bit up on this offer, but
Okay, I am sorry. I was talking about the operating
You
system
can use
version.
a 2013.
The I think, yeah, with the 2013 machine you can run the latest operating system. So so updating to the newest operating system is just a matter of your hardware being capable of doing. So maybe 2013, it should be 2013 should be a good year, at least for some.
You can also
years.
look on everymac.com. Actually has a list. This OS, the earliest reliable machine is this year model. So every Mac would have exactly the information.
Yeah. I think 20 something. There will maybe you have.
For me, it wasn't that much interesting because I don't have a Mac, but from a general problem, because I'm maintaining Frescobaldi in the FreeBSD course tree, and there's different issues, but also problems you run into. For example, right now, one thing that's not working is MIDI, which isn't much of a problem for me because for the stuff I use LilyPond for, I don't need it. But it would be nice to have it for then others who would be more relying on that could be bought in. So that's just one remark. I mean, as long as I have some sort of MIDI setup and can't really do work properly on that area as well. So,
Well, I could help with testing because I have a FreeBSD machine, so I could help with testing.
so
But
maybe we can say
we can talk about it. And other questions regarding Frescobaldi on the Mac? No, so I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes to talk about the other topic. I think we all know this book. And when I heard of this conference and was thinking about what I could contribute, besides the talking about Frescobaldi on the Mac in the special LilyPond and Frescobaldi day, I had the idea that we keep referring to Gould for, let's say, a gold standard of music engraving, but how much of good can we do in LilyPond? How much can we? How much does LilyPond engrave things the way Gould would engrave? And so I proposed to Urs and Bernard and Lucas that we could try to launch a project, a collaborative project, to re-engrave all the music examples of that book with LilyPond, in order to see where LilyPond is already good, where LilyPond doesn't have the required functionality, where LilyPond does have it but needs some tweaks, and so both as a let's say a test suite for LilyPond, and also as a showcase of the capabilities of LilyPond and also of the shortcomings of LilyPond's engraving possibility. For example, just to make a couple of examples, I'll make just one example. When Gould talks about the tempo marks, she has tempo marks attached to a certain point of the score, and tempo marks that are spanners. And we can fake tempo spanners in LilyPond using other spanners, but I have yet to be able to find a way to perfectly align other tempo marks with the tempo spanners in an automatic way. Automatically. I mean, it always needs some manual tweaking of 2 points above. So that's one thing that currently is not available in LilyPond. It can be faked with a lot of manual intervention. And there are many other times and many other things where it's just that LilyPond's default choices are different, but you can tweak it to to have the result you can see in the book. So I just wanted we couldn't present something already done, something we couldn't have something ready for this conference because of copyright issues with the publisher, and there are some news, but we need to think carefully about them. But we wanted at least to present the idea, and maybe you find it you can find it a good idea, or maybe not, and we would like to know what you think of such a collaborative project. It would be a way of let's say a test crowd engraving project, where we Urs had the idea of adapting one of the extensions to Frescobaldi he wrote for the LilyPond Mozart edition, to manage all the different examples we could have. If we can arrange things with the publisher, we could have a website presenting the music examples with and without tweaks compared with the original ones, and so there are many things that could be done starting from this.
One thing up front to avoid a few of the possible objections, the idea would not necessarily be to do everything exactly like she suggests, because every now and then we are discussing, or it is discussed, that just because it's in behind bars, it's the only possibility. That's not the case, of course. But it would be, as you said, a showcase and a kind of similar to our regression test suite. Maybe with the idea of, over time, removing the necessity for all these tweak files.
The main problem I see is simply would we be permitted to showcase a significant and comprehensive extract of behind bars.
Yes, that we of course we thought about that and thought we would only invest any work if we have cleared that. So we asked Elaine, and she forwarded it. I think she thought it was a fine idea. She forwarded it to her publisher, and then I received last week an email from the licensing department, and in a nutshell they said, okay, maybe we can do an arrangement. Please tell us that we don't want the PDFs to be in a downloadable format, the music examples from the book at one. And the other one is, please tell us exactly which and how many you want, so we can tell you how much it will cost. We are talking about a 5-year license arrangement and then talk more. So our current stance to that is, even if they should say 5 years for the music examples, we're generous, just £100, we would say no, that's not possible. Of course, we could get these £100 in a minute, but I don't think that's anything reasonable. At the moment we say, we will talk again to Elaine. Maybe this conference has a little bit shifted her in a way to push a little bit more towards her publisher and convince them that it's only a benefit to them. But
the problem is if we're up there in public, and it would of course be an incentive to look just through our examples and not buy the book. So I can understand the publisher.
But I don't think so that the examples without the text are of any. I think in the balance with the plus and minus, it can only increase the sales.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I have the book. I didn't study it in detail because it came out long after most of the formatting code was done. What I can recall is that a large proportion of the examples are actually not things that LilyPond does by itself automatically, but it's a choice between, do I put half a rest or 3/4 rest, and that's basically still up to the user to decide.
No. Yeah, of course, some of them.
And
Well, in a collaborative effort, it's not something that maybe I have to do within a certain time frame, and I will just have as little work as possible. This would grow over years, I think, and then we would have the time, basically for every example that doesn't match, to have a discussion and say, oh, in this case, we decided to leave it like that, or something like that. I think that, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to say goodbye. Unfortunately, I had to go take the plane, but it was a pleasure meeting all of you, many for the first time. And yeah, thanks for the work on LilyPond. I absolutely love it. And thank you all.
Thanks for coming. I think the project, independent of Behind Bars, is an interesting one because there are really three steps, right? There's the step that we have right now, which is examples that were engraved in LilyPond, and in some version, and we're engraving them again and comparing the two. That's our regression, as I understand it. The first version was done in LilyPond that we're testing against, and we just want to see. But that version was not agreed by everyone to be the most beautiful possible, by a critical mass, to be the most beautiful possible thing. It was just what it was.
It was just to prove that it's
That we're not, we haven't broken it. Yeah. At the other end is Behind Bars, which, for argument's sake, let's say we agree does have the most beautiful engraved thing. I understand that's a discussion, separate discussion. But let's assume that is the best possible case. And we're saying engrave in LilyPond the exact musical notation and then continue to try to tweak towards that. But the issue over there is the rights. Is there not a center spot where I say, for example, this one measure of a Baron-Reiter score, piano score, I offer as a really good example of engraving, and we try to do this project towards that, which probably on a single bar does not have. I mean, that's a fair use. There's excellent fair use.
So the manual has like a copy of a fragment of the Baron-Reiter solo suite, and the essay actually has the complete page, the first
Yeah.
page
So
at the end. I never asked them if I could do that.
the copyright for editions is of course very much less than for content. So if it's an edition of music that itself is not in copyright, chances are those scores that we would want to have are out of copyright anyway.
So then we gain the power of the crowdsource. Let's find the best possible examples and keep LilyPond moving towards that, which will eventually become the regression tests when we feel like we've gotten close enough. But we don't have the rights issues of trying to get. Even though I agree 100% that that's a wonderful.
What could still happen is that people who have Behind Bars then vet the contributions and say, okay, this does agree with what Gold states, or this is in direct contradiction, and then we may even put a score on stuff and say maybe it's not good, or it's considered controversial or something like that. But we wouldn't need the example from Gold
itself. Yeah.
I think the main point for using a book like that is its comprehensiveness.
Yes, of course.
It's a canon of engraving.
Yeah.
But so I want to cut it short because you said, oh, we have a little bit of time, and it was 5 minutes, and so that has long passed now. Is there anything actionable that comes out of this discussion?
I'll check with my client to see whether the co-located Mac is still a possibility, and then I will check with whoever might be interested in using a co-located Mac to see if it's technically a useful solution.
Yeah. And nothing for Behind Bars so far.
If no one objects against this being a good idea in general, we will follow up on this copyright thing, and maybe we can work out something, and maybe probably not.
Yes.
But we'll just let a few days pass and write an email again.
I mean, it may still end up with the idea of having people collect samples they consider good, and then contribute a picture, one measure picture, as well as LilyPond's as a codified solution of LilyPond's current behavior, and then build up that, and it can still be vetted by using the Elaine Go without problem.
That shouldn't have to be very.
Okay, so we were, I hear no concrete things to do here because it went on for.
I mean,